My F32, BF, M37, of 3 years is hiding our relationship from his social media followers and is still leading certain women to believe he is single. Too long didn't read. My F32, stunning model BF, M37, of 3 years isn't open about being in a relationship and is still messaging girls online acting as if he is single after promising he wouldn't. I found some messages that upset me. What do I do? Sorry if this is long. I've, F32, been with my BF, M37, since 2018. For context, before him I was married and in an abusive 11 years relationship with my husband, who then cheated on me with a mutual friend via Messenger and DM. He would message her next to me in bed then hide it. He also used to insult my weight, appearance and intelligence. I'm size 8 to 10 and we met in uni. I know I have low confidence and find it hard to trust now, but have been trying my best, though I admit I have a long way to go. My BF is lovely, just want to make that clear. He's kind and caring and very generous. He can be very sweet. He's also absolutely stunning and I feel I hit the jackpot and have no idea why he's with me, except he also has really low self-esteem from similar past events. He has a huge social media following, loads of fangirls and boys. Has done proper modeling gigs in the past, and always surrounds himself online with absolutely mind-bogglingly hot women that I really don't feel I can compete with. They all seem to look the same too. So I think they're most probably his type, though he says he doesn't have one. He says they're all his friends and he's always on his phone messaging people via Insta and WhatsApp constantly even if I'm there. It kind of upsets me, because I make an effort not to touch my phone when we're together and see our time together as precious, especially now we don't get to see each other as regularly due to C/vid. Seems he constantly needs validation and attention from others and I'm not good enough to make him feel better about himself. The issue is that he says he's really private and doesn't want to post anything, even on his private FB, about me. He's been like this for all his GFs, not just me. I can't post photos of us together on any of my accounts or he feels uncomfortable. I only met a handful of his friends just before the pandemic began, and he admits he has a really flirtatious personality so. To clarify, I've met all his family. He's told me I'm his soulmate, has asked me to marry him, a few times actually lol, and says he's finally happy with me after years of bad relationships with his other GFs. He also says he's done stuff with me he's not done with anyone else, like asked me to spend Christmas with him, go to a wedding with him, meet some of his friends, which seems odd to me, and gone out for Valentine's Day. I know I probably sound like I'm really jealous or obsessive, but it gets me down that he's constantly being bombarded with flirty or downright inappropriate comments. A girl started describing her wet dreams she'd had about him on his post the other week and I felt seriously uncomfortable but didn't feel I could confront her. Totally get it, he's gorgeous, and I know other people will lust after him, but he never corrects them or asks them to stop, or mentions that he has a GF who has to deal with people constantly going after him. It doesn't happen to me often, but when we first started dating a few guys tried messaging me to HMU and I decided to change my FB status to say I was in a relationship so guys would stop coming after me, but I never said who with so as to respect my BF's privacy. He never did this in return, but he doesn't actually have any personal info like that on his accounts anyway, so it's not like he's actually lying to people. In the past, however, there have been at least 2 instances where he was constantly messaging particular e-girls non-stop for months who were definitely into him from how they spoke to him, and he never mentioned I existed, and even told one of them he was single. That girl in particular went crazy when she found out from someone else that I was his GF and rang me up crying to say nothing had happened between them yet, but she'd thought it was going to, and he told her he was single. It broke my heart and I nearly ended it, but he kept swearing she'd misconstrued their friendship and admitted he was telling everyone he was single, not just her. I decided to stay because when this girl sent me screenshots of their messages, there wasn't actually anything dodgy going on and I couldn't understand why she'd thought he was into her from them. And also she had deleted comments where he referred to them as friends before sending me copies. My BF sent me messages too to prove nothing had been happening, so that's how I knew she'd edited her evidence. Turned out she'd been after him for years and thought it was a sure thing between them, and it seemed she couldn't take it when she found out he had a GF who wasn't anything like her. Everyone told me to give him another chance. The girl literally disappeared, and after that was when he first asked me to marry him. I told him at the time, trying to put my foot down but also trying to accommodate his needs, that I didn't like him outright lying that he was single and that I didn't want him to do that because if it was the other way around I didn't think he'd like it, and I didn't want there to be any excuses for misunderstandings again in the future. He agreed to a degree and said if anyone asked him if he was single he'd tell them the truth. I guess looking back he never actually said, he'd just tell people up front. He now thinks I don't like girls and makes me feel bad for feeling uneasy about some of the stuff that is said, but I honestly don't mind him talking to other girls and don't have issues with the majority. It's just the ones he seems to go out of his way to pursue and leads to believe he's available. As a result I don't feel I can openly talk about how it makes me feel, or he'll just say I'm overbearing or jealous. Recently I found out by accident that he's started messaging another girl like crazy who he used to know a long time ago and doesn't seem to have spoken to in years. I totally get that, and also, the girl lives abroad so it's not like anything is going to happen. However, I found out he's not mentioned to her that I exist and seems to be alluding that he doesn't have anyone in his life again, including joking with her that he'd be her fake husband to help her get into the country because he needs someone to look after him in his old age, which actually really hurt me because he told me he wanted that to be me. He was asking her the pros and cons of wifing her, and yet at the same time was telling me how lucky he was to have me, how he just wants to make me happy because I deserve it apparently, and how he can't wait to have kids with me, which is something I've been worried might not happen to me tbh and I have FOMO over. My friend thinks he was just joking but it still hurts and he doesn't know that I know about these conversations he's having with her. To be clear, it isn't that he's talking to her that's the issue, it's that he seems to be alluding to the fact he's single and it makes me feel like I'm never enough. What should I do? Should I tell him I've seen these messages and it hurt me? Or should I go with what my friend said, give him the benefit of the doubt and just keep an eye on it? I'm scared of confronting him then it being nothing and me looking crazy or losing the relationship that is great 98% of the time. I do love him. This relationship is going to make you more miserable as time goes on. Break up, move on, and get some therapy. You seem to have some really tendencies that incline you towards remaining in relationships that are horrible for you. 11 years in your abusive relationship, and now 3 years in this one where your partner won't acknowledge that you're together. In Asia, agents will often encourage their clients, actors/performers/singers, to present as single in order to bolster the fantasy of availability to their fan base. I suppose this also extends to people who monetize their contacts through Insta and FB. To that extent I can understand why he might omit it. However, to me being private is just refusing to discuss one's private life, not actively engaging in conversations that are disrespectful to one's partner. I can be a huge flirt as well, but I'm also hella elusive when it comes to private stuff. I think your beau has got used to having his cake and eating it too. It's not that you're being a complete obsessive and telling him to stop having female friends, you both need to allow for clear boundaries. I suspect that part of his resistance to this is that he derives so much of his self-esteem from the attention. You guys are in your 30s. This is honestly the kind of thing I'd expect from someone in their late teens/early 20s. Is he open and transparent with his phone or does he try to hide stuff? On the surface he probably thinks this is just nothing to worry about, but in the long run it can erode trust. Has he ever reacted to you being pursued by other men? My suggestion would be to pull back a bit and see if he notices. I wouldn't over discuss it, but I'd probably wait to see if he notices your reticence. You never said if you accepted the marriage proposal, so I'm also wondering if he likes to talk a lot, have a lot of chatter but doesn't really intend to follow through. Him messaging other girls is just not okay. I get that he may be pursued due to being attractive, but how he handles this with you is actually quite unattractive. In the meantime, I'd think seriously about the time you've spent with him. 2 years is enough time for you to decide if you want to be grappling with this for longer, and if he doesn't intend to meet you halfway. He does not want to post his relationship statuses on social media because he is trying to keep all of his options open. Your BF is definitely not handling this relationship with maturity. And I think you have it spot on that his personal ego gets fed by the attention. I think it's important for you to think long and hard about this aspect of his personality. If you are willing to always be second fiddle to the online fangirl/boy group, that is something you'll have to live with. It should also be considered how he will handle the attention going away. No one stays young and attractive forever. It doesn't matter if it is 5, 10, or 15 years down the road, eventually the attention will fade. When it does, how big of an impact will that have on his mental health? Try asking him that as a serious discussion about where you see each other in the future. His answer will be very telling. Admitted he was telling everyone he was single, not just her. Recently I found out by accident that he's started messaging another girl like crazy. However, I found out he's not mentioned to her that I exist and seems to be alluding that he doesn't have anyone in his life again, including joking with her that he'd be her fake husband to help her get into the country. He was asking her the pros and cons of wifing her. Would he still do this if he has kids with you? If you got married? Honestly, I think this is really disrespectful. This isn't just pretending to be single for the career, this is actively flirting with another woman. I know of someone famous. I have not met them personally but have met their extended family. They are in the music business and perform regularly around the world. They do keep their private life very private, but they never present themselves as single, even if it could help them career-wise. It's hurting you, and you should be able to talk about this with him. Even if it's a joke, it's still hurtful. Have you phrased this as I don't have an issue with you generally talking to women, but it hurts me when you belittle our relationship and pretend it does not exist. If you want to make me happy, as you've said you do, stop explicitly and overtly claiming to be single. My 28F boyfriends, 33M, creepy friend, 40M, is coming between us. So and I have been together for 3 years. He has a friend that is a somewhat close friend, probably sees him once every couple weeks for beers/to hang out. I worked with his friend for a few years and he's known to be a creep, constantly getting into trouble at work for sexually messaging women way too young for him. He's a good-natured guy but a terrible alcoholic, and this is when that behavior occurs. Everyone laughs it off, because that's just him, and he is always super apologetic when it does happen. Then his behavior escalated this year. 2 months ago he messaged me totally unprompted and asked if I wanted to mess around. Of course he was blackout drunk, so after a stern talking to from we kinda forgot about it because, well, that's just him. Then he finally gets fired from his job. Turns out a girl he worked with since she was 16 had complained about him messaging her when she turned 18. He sent a little kid he worked with till they were of age sexual messages. Now here's where I'm done. I'm drawing the line. It's not funny behavior, that is straight up disgusting. Remove him off of Facebook and made it clear to me, so I don't want to see him. At first, my boyfriend seems to understand. Then he starts to make excuses for him. Well, technically they're both adults. She messaged him back a few times. Then he caves and says he's going to talk to him and tell him it was wrong. Okay, whatever. Better than nothing. Then I find out he's regularly hanging out with this guy despite me being super uncomfortable with him. I honestly feel like my doesn't care how I feel or I'm going to get over it. I fucking hate this dude and one of us is going to have to give some way. I can't avoid a guy that my boyfriend is seeing 2x a week or more. TL, Dr. Boyfriend's creepy friend showed some borderline grooming behavior, yet he still hangs out with him. Are these friendships worth saving at this point? Too long didn't read. My best friend's GF is icing me out because she found out about an ancient FWB relationship between myself and best friend. Stick with me, this is long and needlessly dramatic. I, F30s, have a friend, Sam, M30s, whom I've been close to for roughly 15 years. He's one of my best, and we've had an incredible friendship over the years. Over 6 years ago, we both were getting out of heartbreaking relationships and developed to FWB relationship. It was consensual, healthy, light, and somewhat healing. It ended amicably and simply, and we resumed our friendship as if nothing ever happened. Neither of us has unresolved feelings toward the other. Sounds great, right? Moving on. 4 years later, Sam starts dating Penny, late 20s, few years ago. Penny is incredible. I immediately love her and we become close friends too. She is welcomed and adored by our friend group. Sam and Penny's relationship gets very serious. They move in together and begin planning their future. I'm beyond happy for them. While I'm dealing with my own failed relationships, it's sometimes difficult to be around their happiness, but overall, I am supportive and loving toward each of them. I believe they knew and felt this. A month ago, Sam calls me and tells me he's going to tell Penny about our history. A history so removed from my life that I do not think about it at all. It's ancient history. Okay. That's his choice to determine how he wants to manage his relationship. He tells me as a courtesy, just so I won't unknowingly send ridiculous memes or something during their difficult, private conversation. I'm anxious about what will happen, but supportive. I sincerely believed there would be an awkward, uncomfortable, weird conversation between all three of us the next day, to clear the air. Instead, I'm greeted with a cold, accusatory text from Penny saying I violated the privacy of her relationship, that she needs to rethink her boundaries with me. She's shocked I didn't say anything, and I'm not welcome around them anymore. And she tells mutual friends I'm not to be invited around, that we're on a friend break. Sam says nothing. It's been a month now, with complete silence. I've only told 2 friends the whole truth because I didn't want to bring up my history, nor did I want to make Sam or Penny uncomfortable. But as more time goes on, the more resentful I'm becoming. I had a FWB years ago, long before they met, and I respected Sam's relationship and let him determine if/when he wanted to tell her. Never would have been my place to say anything. And now I'm being used as a scapegoat for whatever is happening in their relationship. I recognize the root of the problem was Sam not telling her the full truth years ago, but I'm angry that I'm receiving the punishment for it. I miss my friends, we were extremely close. Here's the kicker, Sam has done this to me before. Years and years ago, he and his ex banished me from their life based on a rumor. Sam and I eventually cleared that up and got to the truth. And now it's happening again. I feel like I'm in my early 20s with this amount of drama. I miss Sam, I can't even ask if he's okay. However, I'm now suffering anxiety throughout the day and extreme depression, and rage. I don't know if this friendship is worth saving at this point. I have a feeling if they/she ever speaks to me it will be with some sort of mandate of how I'm expected to act. Too much time has passed for this to be a healthy conversation. It's grown into this beast. So, I guess my question is, would you agree? Is this friendship even worth saving?